Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. This is going to be a first trimester recap. If you're new here, hello, my name is Emily. I do lifestyle content. I am a Christian. I'm married to my best friend, Justin. We just moved out to Denver, Colorado this summer. I'm a nurse practitioner, just rattling off all the facts and interesting things about us. I love social media and YouTube. Just like having a creative side hobby has been so much fun for me. I feel like the essence or vibe of my channel, if you will, is just joyful, intentional living, documenting everyday life. I try to be really relatable and also just uplifting and encouraging and fun. So that's kind of the vibe of my channel. And I am recently pregnant, expecting. We are having a baby girl. Baby girl Geddes. That's how you say our last name, by the way. Geddes, not Geeds or Geddes, it's Geddes. And we're so excited. She's due mid-July and I'm almost 17 weeks. So by the time you see this, I think this will go up like mid-late this week. I will be 17 weeks, so squarely in my second trimester, and I had a very rough first trimester. So I figured we would just talk about all the things. If you haven't watched the first trimester vlog yet and just all of our pregnancy videos so far, go watch those, especially the first trimester vlogs. You'll kind of see all of this in action, if you will. And yeah, we're just gonna talk about all the things today. Also, if I'm distracted, I am on Instagram because that's where the questions are gonna come from, and I literally just posted our gender reveal reel. So I'm a little distracted as comments are coming in, which is so much fun. So if that happens and my eyes are darting, that's why. So let me see, first trimester. I feel like I've shared a lot, but I really wanted this video to be just kind of week by week symptoms and more of like the physical symptom side of things, because I've talked a bit about like the emotional and just all the mental stuff of not feeling like yourself and just feeling blah. And I wanted to go through like specific physical symptoms and kind of the medical side a little bit, just because I know some people find that interesting. When I was in the throes of nausea, I watched a lot of these videos just to feel validated and to know I'm not crazy. If I wasn't feeling nauseous at a certain point, or I was, or I had weird symptoms, like I've had a bunch of nosebleeds, for example, which is totally normal. Also, if you're new here, you might not know that I am a women's health nurse practitioner and I work at a holistic women's health and fertility clinic. So this stuff is literally my jam, like pregnancy, helping women get pregnant, start their families, and just early pregnancy things, symptoms, all of that is literally what I do for a living. But when it's you, it is so different. I mean, I was doctor Googling things. I was on Reddit threads deep in the middle of the night. And sometimes, even as a healthcare provider, you just need that. Like, you need to have your crazy mom moment where you're Googling stuff that you know you shouldn't and that you already know. It's just nice to be a patient sometimes and to let yourself just be human and not be in a provider headspace. But you also, being in healthcare, know too much. And so it's just this constant back and forth of, you know, okay, I know all this information, I can take care of myself well, but also I know all the things that could go wrong. And that's just a hard mental game. So that was a challenge for me. But anyways, let's get into the specific symptoms. Again, if you haven't watched the other videos, I go into more of the details of were we trying, we were not trying, but I talk about that a lot in the pregnancy Q&A and just the timeline of everything. But just to recap, I found out that we were pregnant, or I was pregnant, we were expecting November 9th, which was a Saturday, and I was 4 weeks and 4 days at that point. I'm fine with sharing my due date. It's July 15th. I feel like some people are more private about that. I don't feel like I have any stalkers, and if I did, I don't really care that they know my due date. Anyways, I don't know. People get weird about sharing certain things. I'm fine with you knowing my due date. It's July 15th. You can be praying for me at that time. Anyways, because if I feel like if I say, oh, I was 4 weeks, 4 days on this day, if someone's really curious and just wants to know my due date, you can go figure it out. So I might as well just say what it is. But mid-July. Hopefully she'll be a July baby. If it's so weird to say she's a June baby, I guess that would technically still be okay. I'd be like 37 or so weeks, but I really hope she goes full term, 39 plus. So anyways, okay, let's get into it. So found out I was pregnant, 4.5 weeks along. I have November 11th. So that's again, 4 weeks pregnant, woke up at 1 a.m. to pee. Hungry, so ate a cheese stick. This is middle of the night. Y'all, we're just gonna get into like the weird symptoms, okay? Tossed and turned for 2 hours. Also, if you're a guy watching this, you might not want to watch this. We're going to get a little TMI. Pregnancy discharge is such a thing, so noticed that change as well at 4 weeks. Headache, body odor changes, very slight random nausea, and then mild uterine cramps. So those are my 4 week symptoms. Very early pregnancy. Also, if you're new to pregnancy dating, it can be confusing because you're actually about 2 weeks behind what you actually say, because the baby wasn't conceived or even created yet until 2 weeks along, because you count from the first day of your last menstrual period. If you're going by LMP and not ultrasound, that's a little in the weeds, but technically I'm like almost 17 weeks, but the baby's only existed for 15 weeks, which is a confusing thing in women's health. So yes, I was like, the baby had existed for about 2.5 weeks at that point. And I wasn't really nauseous. I just had that very, very mild cramps, like so mild that if I didn't know I was pregnant, I probably wouldn't have noticed it. I would have just thought it was random, like early period cramps or indigestion or something. But knowing that I was pregnant, I was just hyper aware of how I was feeling. And so a lot of these little sensations are so random. And honestly, I took so many notes for those early weeks. Lately, I've written like 1 or 2 things down now. You know, there's just not as many symptoms in second trimester for me at least. So if it's really weird and in the weeds, I apologize, but some of y'all love this stuff. Okay, 5 weeks. Forgetfulness, low motivation, mild fatigue, and mild acid reflux. At this point, I think I just had mild nausea. I also said like mild fleeting nausea on the couch and in the gym. Feeling out of breath when talking. That's been really consistent all of pregnancy for me. Brain feels slower. Pregnancy brain is so real. I have felt that since very early on. Breasts feel and look big, which has also been a big symptom for me. The brain fog, fatigue, and then breast changes is like one of the first things I noticed at 5 weeks, and that has stayed very consistent. Very mild cramps, slight headache. Other things, nausea starts to get a little bit worse. 5 weeks, it was fine. It was really 6 weeks that it hit me. I put slight hot coffee aversion around 5 weeks. Doesn't really sound good. That was a theme. First nosebleed. Feel like I look glowy, question mark. Could just be my self-tanner though. Full boobs, mild cramps, some nausea, slight dizziness, water aversion. I wrote a lot down, y'all, in these early days. More nighttime nausea. Similar themes through the rest of the through the rest of 5 weeks, through the rest of week 5. Irritable, dehydration, mild nausea. Let's see what else. 5 weeks, 6 days, I woke up at 2 a.m. with a twin dream, like a dream we were having twins. We had not had an ultrasound yet. We only have 1 baby in there. We have confirmed that many times, so no twins. At Jenna, who sent me a reel today saying that, or a Instagram thing that someone was gonna have triplets and that it was me this year. No, thank you. We're just 1 baby. Okay, getting into 6 weeks. Big sore breasts, insomnia, anxiety, more discharge, empty stomach, nausea. That's when that really started. You'll see as I get into all the weeks, I actually never threw up so far. Knock on wood. I'm actually gonna knock on our floor. I don't even think that's wood, but whatever. I never threw up, and to some people that might sound like, oh, you had it so easy first trimester, you literally never threw up. But when I tell you guys that throwing up is my least favorite thing ever, like I'd rather be sick with the flu for a week than have a stomach bug where I'm vomiting for 24 hours or so. I'm not lying. I have the strongest vomiting aversion of anyone I know. I will not let myself throw up unless I have active food poisoning where my brain doesn't have a choice and my gut is just retching. And so I never threw up. I would always just keep it down. And there were even times that I wanted to throw up and I was like, okay, body, like I'm trying to relax my brain. I'm ready to throw up. It sounds so weird, but if you've been pregnant, you know that feeling of just like, let it come out. I'm so nauseous. I'm sitting by the toilet for hours. I'm miserable. It's just that in-between feeling where you don't know if it's coming up, if it's going to go down, if you're going to have other GI stuff. And that was pretty much 6 weeks, 8 weeks of life for me, almost every single day. And I almost feel like that's worse than just the occasional vomiting because you just don't know what's happening. You don't know if you're going to throw up, if you're going to be by the toilet for hours. Like sometimes I would literally sit there for hours and just wait, and I would scroll Instagram or respond to text or just sit there because maybe my phone made me nauseous. It just was so variable day to day, and that kind of slowly started around week 6. So other week 6 things, I have a need for Chick-fil-A nuggets. Need, not want or craving, but a need. That was very consistent for the following weeks. Mild nausea, emotional, fatigued, sore breasts, similar themes. I have 6 weeks, 2 days. Worst nausea has been so far. I felt like I was going to puke driving to work, and I slowly realized that in the morning I would get that empty stomach nausea because I hadn't eaten in, 9 hours or so. I usually eat a little bit close to bed. I know that's not recommended for just health, but I always feel better even before pregnancy having a little snack before bed just to settle my stomach. I feel like I sleep better. I can eat right before bed and be totally fine getting to sleep. And so once I figured that out, I made some adjustments. Let's see, did not want to get up to move at all. This is when the extreme fatigue hit, like mid through that 6th week. Almost fell asleep at work. Bad headache, needed magnesium. Bad nausea on the drive home from work. Yes, other consistent things, discharge cramps. The cramps were very, very mild, not to scare anyone who's first trimester or considering conceiving. I never had any bleeding, which is great. Although I would say like 25 to 30%, I think that's the right stat, of women will have normal bleeding in their first trimester. It's very, very common. Obviously, if you have any vaginal bleeding, you need to tell your healthcare provider because there is that risk of miscarriage. But I mean, bleeding can be from intercourse, it can be from random hematomas in your uterus, it can be implantation bleeding. There's so many causes. So definitely not always, something really bad and scary, but something to be aware of. And I'm very thankful I did not have any bleeding, but I did have some mild cramps, which is normal as your uterus is growing to accommodate another human. Okay, let's move on to week 7. At this point, we had gotten an ultrasound, we did labs, all of that. So I was feeling better mentally, just anxiety-wise. Like I knew there was a baby in there was a heartbeat, things looked good. Okay, so week 7 was actually a little bit better. I had no nausea. I think this was the week of Thanksgiving, so we went home and told my family that we were pregnant. And something interesting, just physiologically, of course I have to throw in just fetal development, nurse practitioner things in here. Week 7 is when the luteal, like corpus luteum, luteal placental shift starts to happen, which means that hormone production starts to shift primarily from the corpus luteum, which is what's left over after you ovulate. It's the remnant of the follicle, the dominant follicle that ovulated that cycle. That is kind of your hormone producing factory until the placenta starts to form. And the placenta is more like fully formed around 10 or so weeks. But that transition is really happening around week 7. And you'll sometimes notice that in symptoms, but especially in labs, if you're someone who's getting hormones monitored for like supplementary progesterone for early miscarriage prevention. Sorry, I'm putting my NP hat on right now. It's interesting because progesterone actually has this physiologic dip at that point because there's just that transition period from corpus luteum to placenta. So I was actually feeling pretty good nausea-wise because the main theory to explain pregnancy nausea is HCG production. I'm gonna leave this in here because this is just real life. And as that transition is happening from one hormone producer to the next, there's kind of that lag in HCG. So you might see a little dip in your hormones, including progesterone. And I was definitely feeling a bit better that week, which was very nice. So I had no nausea, some breast sensitivity, and then towards the end of week 7, I said nausea's back. I was always so frustrated when it came back. Let's see, end of week 7, some constipation, mild cramps, breast tenderness, same themes. Okay, week 8. I remember week 8 was really, really rough. Week 6, I was like, oh, I'm feeling nauseous, because week 4, 5, I was actually wanting to be nauseous. We hadn't had an ultrasound. We didn't get one until week 6. And I remember thinking, oh, like I really want to be nauseous. And the thing with nausea is if you don't have it, it doesn't mean that there's something bad. Like, it doesn't mean that you're going to miscarry. Some people, some women just aren't nauseous in their pregnancies, and I'm very jealous of those women. But women who have nausea in their pregnancies are actually much less likely to miscarry. They've just found that correlation. But if you don't have nausea, it doesn't mean that you're more likely to miscarry. Does that make sense? So if you don't have nausea, you're fine, but it's kind of a good sign if you are nauseous. So it's kind of an interesting tidbit, and I am thankful I had some nausea just to make me feel better, but I also hated being nauseous. So week 8, I was kind of hating Emily from week 5 who wanted to be nauseous because nausea got bad week 8. And I unfortunately had one of my sweet friends visiting us, and she was so excited to like hang out and catch up, and I needed naps every day. I just could not hang. I did not have the energy for everything she wanted to do, and so that was hard, but still a good catch up. Insomnia, I was actually on progesterone at this time because the clinic where I work, we are very, very just specialized in our care, and also really, really try to help first trimester women feel cared for and seen and loved, especially because most of our patients do have a history of infertility and often recurrent pregnancy loss or miscarriage. And so we actually do every 2-week ultrasounds in the first trimester and labs to check hormones. So it's not routine to check someone's progesterone, really, unless you've had multiple miscarriages, but we're kind of like, that shouldn't be the standard of care. We want to make sure that everyone's hormones look good and everyone's producing enough progesterone and try to prevent miscarriage as much as we can. And so we checked my hormones. I was a little bit low progesterone, supplemented for a couple weeks, yada yada. Progesterone's pro-gestation, progesterone, it's a pregnancy sustaining hormone. Not going to get into the physiology, but y'all know the things. Anyways, I was taking supplementary progesterone at that time, and progesterone can absolutely make you quite sleepy. So I was getting sleepy, but for me, it actually made me have insomnia. So there's a small percentage of women who can have insomnia when taking progesterone, and I was one of the lucky ones. Okay, week 8, extreme fatigue, queasiness, nausea, tossing and turning at night sweats, smell and taste changes, discharge, mild cramps. that was very consistent. That week, I was so exhausted. Like I said, I would go do one errand with a friend, be out for an hour or two, and then come back and take a nap for hours. And that was pretty consistent all of December. I was so tired. I could sleep 12 hours and still need a 3-hour nap in the middle of the day. I mean, it felt like having the flu without all the flu respiratory symptoms and fever, just the fatigue and muscle aches, chills. I did get sick a couple times December and January, just with something that I think was a flu-like virus and then a couple colds. If you can still hear some congestion, I'm at the very, very tail end of a bad cold. And the fatigue was just like nothing I've ever experienced. I was deep in my Reddit rabbit holes, like I mentioned at the beginning at this point, just being like, am I crazy? Am I lazy? Am I being over dramatic about things? Because like, I'm not someone who's gonna make my sickness seem worse than it is, but I really listen to my body. If I'm feeling sick, like I will take a day off of work. If I need to take a half day or just adjust things, like I am not someone who's gonna really push through sickness. I'm pretty big on listening to my body. I definitely will still, even if I'm at home and like off from work, I struggle with still wanting to be productive and like work on my laptop while I'm in bed, and Justin will have to encourage me, like, you can watch a movie, you can nap, you can still rest. I kind of like halfway do it, if you know what I mean. But I'm not someone who's gonna like play up my sickness because I want to get out of work. I just like really listen to my body. And so I thought I was crazy for feeling so fatigued. I was like, oh my goodness, am I just being dramatic? And it was really, really validating to just read about other women who felt like they had to take off of work or couldn't get out of bed. And I think one of you guys asked if I took off of work. I'll actually get to y'all's questions at the end, or honestly, maybe I'll just incorporate them in here. She asked, did you ever take off work? I did for exhaustion/nausea and felt lame, weak. I'm a little curious if others. Let me just tell you, you're not lame or weak. I definitely felt that way about myself when I was considering that. I actually thankfully already had pre-planned time off. I got a lot of PTO when I started work, and it cuts off in the calendar year, and so I had 3 weeks to burn. And so I took a random week off mid-December, which was such a blessing because I was like 9 weeks along and just really laid in bed that whole week. So that worked out really well because I had planned that before we knew we were pregnant, and God just knew I needed to take that exact week off. It was so random, and I'm so thankful we didn't plan on a trip or anything. We had considered doing a last-minute Disney trip, and my gosh, y'all, I would have hated that trip so much because I wouldn't have been able to do anything. So did not take time off. Well, not directly for the nausea fatigue, but indirectly I already had time off planned. And then I had a good chunk of time off around Thanksgiving, which was week 7, was feeling better, but it was still good to have some time off. And then some time off around Christmas and New Year. So yes and no to answer your question. The other ones are more general, like emotional questions, so I'll answer those at the end. Moving on to week 9, vivid dreams, night sweats. Oh, okay, and then this is again TMI one, but we're all girlies here, right? The progesterone, I was taking it orally at first, and I just really struggled with pills. Like I was taking the Ritual prenatal, which is a pill, and it's one of the best prenatals on the market. It has methylfolate, HA, so many good things in there, and just like the right amounts. But taking pills was really hard when I was nauseous, and so I actually switched to the Ollie prenatal, which is a gummy. It does have sugar in it, but you know, at this point I'm like, as long as baby's getting the nutrients that they need, well, she needs now, and that's fine. So I was taking oral progesterone, was really struggling to get the pill down, and so I realized that you can actually take it vaginally, so you can just pop it down there, and it can get a little bit messy, and so it's recommended to stay in your bed or sitting for 15-30 minutes just to let it dissolve and get absorbed. And that produced some remnants of the pill that was interesting to wake up to. If you've ever done a vaginal suppository or vaginal probiotic, it's a little weird, but yeah. Anyways, that was fun. Nausea, week 9, fatigue. I have really emotional, and I think I took a video or two when I was crying over random things. I haven't shared them yet because it just felt awkward, but I tried to document random stuff like that just to look back on later. And I remember I would see like a commercial or a reel of like a puppy who needed to be adopted, or a cute duck, like a baby duck. It was always baby animals. Or a sweet thing of a mother and her daughter or son, and just lose it. I mean, bawling my eyes out like someone had just told me that someone died or had cancer or something tragic. I mean, I lost it, and Justin would come in the room and be like, you good? Like, what's going on? So very emotional. Now that I know we're having a girl, I'm like, is there something to that with like estrogen levels? I don't know. My estrogen's been very high this whole pregnancy, which is good. It's supposed to be. And then I have extremely thirsty week 9. So that's when my thirst really picked up. And if you didn't know, your blood volume in pregnancy increases by like 50%. And so you're making so much more blood, and just the plasma volume that your body has to make, and you have to take in a lot more water. And then being in Colorado, so in a desert climate in the winter at high altitude, all of these things while pregnant just has increased my thirst so much, which is great. My body's telling me it needs more water, but there was a season like 9 to 12 weeks in there where I just could not get enough water. I constantly felt dehydrated, even more recently too. I feel like this past week I've been more on it and just feeling better, but honestly, those random moments of dehydration still happen. Okay, week 10 was a funny one. That was also a really rough week. That was right around Christmas, or right before Christmas. I have all caps, gagging mucus. And I guess I had a cold or something at this point, but y'all, it was the worst symptom. I think this was one of the worst weeks ever, was week 10. I would have all of this post-nasal drip from my sinuses. You might, this is a little gross, but just if you're this far in the video, you're fine with this stuff, I guess. Go down my throat, and then either I would try to gag it up because it was in my throat, or I would just swallow it and it would go down into my stomach and just sit there and make me feel nauseous. If you can imagine just like eating or swallowing mucus, I would have empty stomach nausea plus mucus on top of it on my stomach. And that type of mucusy nausea was so gross, like so awful. And if I tried to gag it up, I would make myself want to throw up. So whether I tried to get the mucus out or let it just go down, and I couldn't let it like just go into my trachea. Like, I don't know why. I swallowed it. I guess that was just the best way to deal with it. I guess if it went down into my lungs, I would just cough it up and the whole thing would start again. But that was awful, like really awful. I have bad nausea, waking up a lot at night to pee or drink water or snack, and then lots of discharge. Week 10, I thought I had a little bump, but then I put tummy felt harder, but also could have been constipation. Week 11, bloating. That is when the bloating really started, and that's been the theme of the past 6 weeks. It's just been this extreme bloating fluctuation throughout the day. Last night, I had a lot of water yesterday and like ate pretty well too, and so my stomach was just bigger and more full. And we had dinner and I had a bunch of water and like a sugar-free Gatorade, randomly craved that last night. And my stomach was so protruded, it looked like I was 6 months pregnant. Like even Justin, who normally, you know, he's a guy and doesn't have as many body image issues as I do, was like, is typically thinking, oh no, you don't look full or big or pregnant. And he was like, yeah, your stomach looks big. It was very, very large. And this morning I woke up and my stomach was normal, like normal flat-ish stomach. And that is pregnancy bloat. It is very extreme. I thought I had experienced bloating before, and I had, especially with eating disorder recovery. You just go through a lot of fluctuations, and I honestly feel like that prepared me really well mentally and physically to be prepared for just very extreme fluctuations throughout the day. But I'm definitely in that season of pregnancy, that phase where you aren't quite showing yet, but sometimes you feel like you are because you're so bloated, but then it goes away, and so you're just kind of confused. That was me. I can button my pants today, but yesterday I couldn't, so make it make sense. Week 11, I said super thirsty, only occasional nausea, and then I did have the tiniest bit of pink spotting on my toilet paper. That was at work, and I was actually really thankful. I think this was the day before my parents came in town, or like the week before Christmas-ish, and Justin was actually at work with me using our Wi-Fi to like work from home because our Wi-Fi was out here. So he was there. I had a little panic moment. I actually just did an ultrasound on myself because I am pretty much trained on second trimester ultrasound at this point, and doing an abdominal ultrasound on yourself is not that challenging, and I know enough to be able to find baby, confirm heartbeat, all of that, movement, etc. Definitely no ultrasonographer, but I'm learning on the job, which is really fun. And so everything was fine on ultrasound. That was great. Week 12, I have very minimal nausea. This is when I thought the nausea had gone away, and I told friends, like close friends story, and texted people like, the nausea's gone. I was wrong. I have some tummy cramps, heartburn. I think a lot of this was like GI stuff. Like I was getting reflux and constipation, and some of it felt like uterine cramps, but it was really GI. All of that was going on. This is when I got sick. I have got a bad cold and sore throat, feel like my immune system is down, and some acne. Acne, I think I was just touching my face too much, but really week 12 until 16, which is where I'm finishing up now, I have felt like my immune system has been so down. I guess, oh my gosh, we're almost at the end of first trimester. I shouldn't go past like week 13. Yeah, my immune system has just been really down, which is normal in pregnancy. You do have immune system suppression and you're just able to catch bugs a lot easier. And that's really a protective, the suppression is to protect your body from rejecting the fetus, the baby, because it is a foreign body, even though it's part of your genetic material, but it's all there to help your body, you know, not reject your baby like you would, you know, potentially reject a organ transplant, things like that. But with that comes just a lot more greater susceptibility to little viruses. And so I'm just struggling with that, especially winter time. But feeling much better today. Week 13 I'll end here, and in my second trimester recap, which we'll do in like a couple months, crazy, I will talk more about immune system stuff because that's been a big theme of second trimester, the beginning of it for me. Week 13 was bloating. I have a balloon emoji in there because that's how I felt. Congestion, again, was sick, and then bloody noses. So again, if you watched one of my weekend vlogs, I think it was the January week in my life, days in my life vlog, I talked about how I got a blood stain on my pants. Yeah, I had a really, really bad bloody nose last week at church, and it just, normally I can feel it, like I usually have to go blow my nose and just some blood comes out, but that can be normal in the winter time, especially in Colorado. But last week I was just minding my business in the church nursery, like picking up a toy or something, and then I see this blood just coming out of my nose. Again, this is really for the girlies who can handle talking about this stuff. Dripping onto the floor and onto my pants, and I look up, touch my nose, and it's just everywhere. That was the worst of them. Everything's just more vascular in pregnancy. You're way more prone to nosebleeds, and so that's normal. Obviously, don't want it to be all the time and profuse bleeding, but took care of it. I just really caught me off guard. So that was a little bit weird. So anyways, that was my very chaotic recap of the first trimester. Let me answer those last few questions just to wrap this up. But if you are a mama or you've been through your first trimester, maybe you're in it right now, I know a couple of you guys who are watching were actually about the same in our pregnancies in terms of how far along we are. I know a couple of you guys have told me you have due dates that are right around mine, which is just the best. This is why I love the internet. Like, ever since we've announced, I've connected with so many other women who I either know in real life from different seasons or have never met before, and it's just so much fun to go through this experience together, even if we never meet in real life. So just know, if you're one of those girls who's reached out to me or commented, that I just love it so much, and it makes me feel less alone. I hope it makes you feel less alone. I just appreciate you so much. Okay, last 3 questions. So what is one thing you are most proud of yourself for during the first trimester? Honestly, working. I didn't really have a choice, but going to work and still doing work and not, yeah, totally falling off the face of the earth. It was really hard. First trimester was awful. And in the middle of the winter, it was just depressing. Yeah, so thankful that I still went to my job every day. Did you have any expectations? If so, how did you handle the expectations versus reality? Again, another plug for the pregnancy Q&A video. If you haven't watched that, go watch it, because I just feel like the Lord really spoke through me in that video. I prayed about it a lot, especially talking about what we experienced with having an unplanned or unexpected pregnancy. I was really nervous to share that, but the response has been so kind, and I just have so much peace about having shared it. And so I think my answer to that is more around expectations of what it would feel like to get pregnant. And I had just really expected that this would be a planned pregnancy, right? I mean, we had talked about waiting until we were about 2 years into marriage, until even trying. We had bumped it up in our minds, that timeline. We had considered maybe trying like later this year, middle of this year. We had kind of talked summer, fall. So it's not that crazy far off, you know, what actually happened versus what we expected. But when you have an unexpected pregnancy, sorry, I'm so congested, I'm not crying. I'm just trying to clear my throat. The experience is just different. I mean, I've never been pregnant before besides this time. That was my first positive pregnancy test. And I was so giddy because we'll share more about this in some fashion on social media, but I was so nervous and convinced that I would have a hard time getting pregnant, especially because of my eating disorder history. Even though I have regular ovulatory cycles and have had them for years, I just have lots of random little health things I've been worried about, hormone balance, all of that, that I was just really surprised that we were able to get pregnant literally while using protection. So that was a shock and also such a joy because I was just really worried that it was going to take us a long time. But again, the shock because we weren't trying. It was really hard and a lot of confusing emotions. And as a planner, Justin and I are both planners. I'm a little bit more of an anal planner than he is, but we're both lean type A. I'm definitely type A. It was really hard. And so I think the expectation in my mind of just one day when I get pregnant, one day when we're trying, and we have that experience of taking the test and, you know, filming our reaction, all of that, it was just not like that at all. I mean, I randomly took a test, didn't even film it. I really thought it would be negative. We were both freaking out. Like, I kind of wish I had filmed it because it was such a real, raw moment. But at the same time, I'm glad I didn't because that was just like our sacred moment. But it was hard. And so that was definitely something I didn't expect. Like, that was our reality of taking our test. And thank God now we're in a much better place emotionally, and obviously so excited for this baby. It's such a blessing. Like, any new life, any life that's created in the womb is always a blessing, regardless of the circumstances that fell around that child's conception. I really, really stand by that. And going through that myself, having an unexpected pregnancy, again, I say unexpected because it was unplanned to us, but not to God. That was really, really hard. And I want to figure out a way to share more about that on like Instagram specifically. I just feel like when you are a life-affirming Christian, you get a lot of hate talking about this stuff. But I feel like talking about, you know, keeping your baby and, you know, being happy about an unplanned pregnancy and all of that, when it's your personal experience, I feel like that maybe goes over well. So if you feel me values-wise, maybe like shoot me a message or comment your thoughts on sharing that, because I'm trying to pray through that right now, just because that is something that is so important to me. And now that we've walked through this ourselves, I feel like the ability to share about that, not in like an abortion way, you know, but more in just like taking circumstances that you weren't planning for and were kind of freaked out by, and seeing the good in it and trying to see it from God's perspective and let go of control and surrender and more of that kind of stuff. So that was a random answer to that question. I wasn't expecting to process that with you guys, but I feel like those of y'all who I know watch consistently and we DM and text and comment and stuff, we are on the same page about a lot of this and you understand where I'm coming from. So, okay, last one. What has been the most unexpected joy of the first trimester? Honestly, I think I kind of already said this, but the first thing that comes to mind is just community and people. And I was really nervous when we found out at first because we just moved to the area, to Denver, Colorado, and we don't like have a ton of friends, but we've plugged into community really well. And I feel like the people we have met have been so excited for us, even though they've known us for 4 to 6 months. And I had a friend who I've only known for a few months. I don't know if you would watch this, but he was like, I want to throw you a baby shower. And again, like, I have not known her, I've only known her since September. And just those really sweet moments, like, we left a really strong community, especially me. Like, I had a lot of really close girlfriends in North Carolina, and it would have been so sweet to experience that with them. But there's something really special about like God walking us through this really tender season where we just feel so vulnerable in a new place and new church, new jobs, new part of the country, going through this really vulnerable experience of an unexpected pregnancy early in our marriage. And to have him just provide for us and bring us people and budding close friendships. Like, obviously I haven't made any like best friends here, but I have a couple of friends here who I'm like, yeah, we're gonna be close friends. Like, this is moving in a really healthy direction and I really enjoy spending time with you. And I'm just really hopeful about those relationships, and even people who are here physically who are also expecting, who are, you know, first time moms or second time moms, second kid, you know what I mean, who are around our age and just season of life and can really just walk with us in that and, you know, give us tips and tricks, whether they've, you know, been parents before, they have the best car seat to buy or whatever, or just be with us spiritually and emotionally through all the changes and just love on us. So yeah, that's been an unexpected joy, and that I just don't think I would have had that perspective on our community had we not been like going through something hard. And I hate to say that because it is such a blessing. Like, there's so many people I know who would just kill to be in our shoes, to have a pregnancy they weren't expecting because they've just been wanting one for so long, wanting a baby. But when you aren't expecting it, it is hard. It is really jarring. And I just want to validate that for anyone who maybe is feeling guilty because they have mixed feelings about being pregnant. I understand, especially working in a fertility clinic, major guilt syndrome for being the one who just got pregnant easily when all my patients are like wanting to be pregnant so badly. But also, my patients are literally the sweetest people ever. I've told a handful of them that we're expecting. It's like come up and they are like so excited and asking me all the questions, and that's just been really sweet too, of seeing other women just celebrate us. And I really want, sorry this is so long, but want to be that girl and that person who celebrates other people well, especially when it's something that I want and don't have. I feel like we've been in a season of just like having all these blessings of Justin and I found each other and had this whirlwind romance and like found our dream person and had our dream wedding and got my dream job, and it's been just this like abundant season, and there's been so much hard in there, especially if you're a close friend of ours. Several of you are who watch these, and you know the ick that we've been in through all of that. But the rest of y'all probably just see the social media highlight reels of like, oh yeah, they got married and, you know, moved and did all this travel, now they're expecting a baby, like their life's perfect. Oh my gosh, it's not. So much hard stuff in there that we just don't share on social media because it's just, you know, private things. But that's all to say, I feel like I haven't had something recently where I've been like yearning for a child or a job or maybe like a husband, but I feel like I had a really healthy headspace in singleness for the most part, where I wasn't like super jealous of friends who were getting in relationships. Maybe a little bit like early 20s when I wasn't as mature. But I just feel like there have been people who I know are trying to have kids, trying to get pregnant, who have been so sweet to us and so excited for us. And I've had some friends who I've told were expecting who I didn't realize were trying, and that always hurts. Like it stings because I just don't want to ever make them feel bad, or yeah, I just had no idea until I told a couple people. But that's just, you know, season of life, it's hard. And of course we've had like the positive reactions, and then we haven't had any bad reactions. It's just, you know, people are people, but overwhelmingly very positive. Anyways, this is such a random ramble. I know you guys like these though, just like those real life moments. This is all to say, I've just been really, not surprised, but just like, I don't know, in awe of how sweet people have been, especially people who don't know us very well, just being so over the top excited and celebratory. And I really want to be that. Like maybe we have a hard time conceiving baby number 2, and even if that's like a pain point for us, I want to be able to just love on my friends who do get pregnant and throw them baby showers and just be so excited for them. Like we are coming off of, again, marriage, moving, all this stuff where we were just celebrated so well. And I have like several friends in mind. You know who you are. I know you know who I'm talking about. I was thinking of someone in particular, good friends of mine who celebrated us so well. I'm gonna cry thinking about it. I hope this makes you cry. You know who you are. So well. Like bridal shower, bachelorette, like engagement party, literally everything. Like hype woman. If you don't know who you are at this point, then you know, I don't know, you better know who I'm talking about. And I want to be that for my friends, whether it's distance friends or friends here. Like we have several friends who just bought a house, like multiple houses, different locations, and I just want to be excited for them and like go to their housewarming. Maybe not throw them a housewarming party, that would be weird, but like get them a nice gift and just be so excited and like celebrate other people's good news. And also, like if I have a friend who has an unexpected pregnancy, I want to be her hype woman. Like if that's you, text me, I'll be your hype woman. DM me, message me, because it is scary. There's so much there. So yeah, that's my takeaway from first trimester is now that I'm feeling better, and like not that you can't do this for people when you're not feeling good. I feel like that's a challenge of mine, is to, you know, still have a good attitude and be there for others when I'm not feeling well. But especially now that I'm feeling a lot more like myself, I just feel really motivated to like love on our people around us. And I have a couple people in our life who are having their babies before we are having ours, and I really want to like go to their baby showers and get them a nice gift and like celebrate them really well. I think especially when you are so active on social media like I am, I never want my posting to seem like taking away from other people or like celebrating myself more than others. There's room for everyone, right? And so for my friends who like maybe aren't as active on social media but are having babies before us, like I really want to like love on them. So yeah, I'm just so excited. I love celebrating. I love parties. I love girlhood, especially now that we have baby girl coming. I'm like, oh, she gets to experience girlhood. Oh, it's gonna be the best. Okay, this was the most rambly ending to this vlog, but you're a real one if you stayed this long. I need to add that to all my vlogs, so you can comment real one again. What if y'all did that before? Comment that if you made it this far. I love you guys, and I hope you have a great week. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.